Fortnite's new ballistic mode is out now, and with it returns the Chapter 5 weapons, now dubbed modular weapons. Much like with other chapters, once Fortnite moves on, most of the stuff don't normally come back. But in this case, we can see that they do still have the weapons and the framework within the game. With this knowledge, I started thinking about how this could help one of the, I think, most different modes within Fortnite, which is rocket racing. Now, Rocket Racing released last year with the release of Chapter 5 alongside LEGO Fortnite and Fortnite Festival. However, Rocket Racing hasn't received as much attention as the two other modes. Now, Rocket Racing is very different. It is, of course, a racing version of Fortnite, which also has its own dedicated rank, as well as different maps and game modes that Epic constantly adds. However, given the way that the game is, or that mode specifically is framed, a lot of players have dropped off, leading to like very low numbers, and Epic seemingly just not looking to do anything with it. Now, I personally enjoy Rocket Racing. I don't play it as much anymore again because I think it's been about over like 2 months since the last update was added. So because of that, it seems it's getting more and more stale, and maybe going down the route of like save the world, perhaps, where Epic still has it, they'll still support it, it'll still be there, but just no love will be given to it, no updates and things like that. Now, with the release of the ballistic mode and the modular weapons that they have, which are the Chapter 5 weapons, this gave me an idea of how we can possibly push Epic to save Rocket Racing for any of those that enjoy it as well. It's no hidden fact that Fortnite had a car-centered or car-themed season, which was Wrecked. I personally enjoyed Wrecked, but I know a lot of other people didn't. I think the gameplay for Wrecked was really fun. It was fluid. It was a lot. The cars, the Nitro Fists, Nitro itself. It gave a lot of different things that we may never see come back to Fortnite. And the core of that season was the car customizations. Now, with what I'm going to say, it may seem very obvious of what I'm hinting at, but I believe Rocket Racing could use the car customizations. Now, what I mean by this is the game mode is literally called Rocket Racing, but all we're doing is racing. Now, there have been a lot of racing games that had combat in them, such as one of my old school favorites, a PS2 game called Spy Hunter, which was a single player action racing game where your car would have like machine guns, rockets, etc., and could fly, change to a boat, all these things. The other one, a more obvious one, is Mario Kart, and another one that I also liked, because I didn't play Mario Kart much, but another one that I really liked was Crash Team Racing. Now, these games are both racing, but also have combat within them, and Fortnite is mainly a combat-centered game. The Battle Royale mode, which is the main mode, focuses specifically on combat. You win by defeating other people in the game. Very simple. However, with Rocket Racing in its current state, all it does, or all it's about, is just racing. It literally has, again, the word rocket in it, but where's the combat? Feel free to join me on this tangent of mine as we try to save Rocket Racing and perhaps make it even better than what it currently is. Okay, so with the car customizations back in Chapter 5, Season 3 specifically, we know that you had to drive over certain boxes in order to get the customization or the object of customization attached to your car, right? The boxes themselves work similar to things that are in like games such as Crash Team Racing as well as Mario Kart, which would mean that the functionality is already there in Fortnite. Let's take a normal racetrack within Rocket Racing, right? Now imagine littered around the map were different customizations such as wheels and the bumper, as well as weapons, right? So the weapons themselves would have to work different, because within the Wrecked season, the turrets were assigned to the passenger seat, but with Rocket Racing you always constantly need to be moving, drifting, all these things, right? So how could we make these work? Now, the following season, chapter 5, season 4, had an auto turret, the backpack that you could have, which automatically targeted people near you, right? So we could use this functionality to say add the machine turret from the wrecked season, but either have its functionality similar to the one that was in season 4, Absolute Doom season, or change it a little bit where you actually control what you're firing at. So have the lock-on system, but have your camera or your right analog stick or your mouse, whatever, have that dictate then who you're looking at or who you're targeting with this gun, but then you then choose how you fire this weapon. Okay, so that could then work for both the grenade launcher as well as the machine gun. The only difference here, I think, would then be that they'd have to reduce the ammo of each weapon so that it's not specifically firing as much as it used to in that season, because of course here now you're racing. In most cases you'll be firing directly at the opponent in front of you, giving them very little chance to escape. But if we reduce, say, the ammo that the weapons have, that could then perhaps make it a bit more balanced. Now the other customizations being the bumper and the wheels. So the bumpers could, for example, we could still have the cow catcher. The cow catcher would be, in this case, very useful for directly ramming into opponents, damaging them, and so on. Now, one thing I forgot to mention is to sort of manage all of this, cars would then need to have a health bar, for example, right? So your health bar is then how much damage you can take. Now, we know that Fortnite has both the sports cars and the SUVs or the trucks, right? So now your choice of a vehicle will then also impact how you're going into this race. So your sports car, for example, would have lower health but would be faster, and then the SUVs or the trucks would then have more health but then would be slower. What this does is it incentivizes you picking a specific vehicle, knowing what you're going into, right? So if you're more of a person that is looking to rather fight everybody in order to take their spot, but you want to survive long enough, then you take the SUVs. If you think you're good at outrunning people, then you take the sports car, right? If you're good at driving, drifting, all these things, then that would make it so that the 2 different types of vehicles, or the 3 different types, well, SUVs and trucks are the same thing, but that would make it so that those 2 vehicles then function as different sort of archetypes. They could then add more down the line, but whatever. For now, we focus on the 2 that are currently in the game, and that's how I see that working. Okay, now going back to the customizations themselves, right? So you have the weapons. So one thing I just thought of as I'm like actually speaking about this now is that the weapons could possibly just be like a one-time use kind of thing. So you use it once and that's it, it's gone. Similar to, I believe, Mario Kart or Crash Team Racing. So you don't necessarily have the turret on you for like the entire match. Maybe you just have it until you actually use it. And then with the other customizations, so the bumpers, so the cow catcher, and I forgot what the other one's called, whatever. But the cow catcher could then be used directly for damaging other vehicles. So if a vehicle's in front of you and say you like turbo or boost into it, then you could deal like massive damage to it, as opposed to if you don't have the cow catcher. You could still deal damage, but it will be far less, be way more with the cow catcher attached. And then the other vehicle mod, the other bumper, would then be for all the different traps in the area, which then brings me on to the wheel or tire mods as well, right? So the idea that I have for the current wheels would be again, I forgot what they're called and I'm too lazy to go look for them, but the bigger wheels. those the bigger wheels could be used to like boost your jumps, as well as maintaining your float as you're floating using your underthrust. So that could then be used for that, to increase your underthrust percentage, perhaps like 150% instead of just 100%. And then the bulletproof tires could then be used for the traps. So Rocket Racing has like different different like environmental hazards that would deal damage to your vehicle and typically slow you down. Now, for example, if you had, say, the bulletproof tires instead, now the use in this case would be that they would essentially negate the slowdown that comes from like driving all those hazards. Some of them are normally on the sides of the racetrack, which while drifting and stuff can be annoying to like drive over. But in this case, if you have those tires, then that could then negate that. I mean, with them, they'd have to function a little bit different to the weapons, where, say, for example, if you have the bulletproof tires, they probably last like three or so hits. So you can land on like, you can drive over 3 hazards without taking slowdown before then they wear off. And then with the cow catcher, the other version of it, that could then be used to clear traps in front of you. So say, you know, those hazards, for example, that are all over the map but that are like placed in front of you. Say you miss a jump or you miss a dodge or something like that, then if you have that bumper, then you could essentially just drive through it, destroying it for a bit of time, which then also leads to like anybody behind you could also like use it for like a little time, but then they regenerate within like maybe 5 seconds or 3 seconds, whatever. And over time, I guess Epic could then add more like different types of customizations, such as like homing rockets or nukes, for example, that specifically target like first place. They could add different tires to the game, such as like speed tires that drastically increase your speed during boosts, or when you drive over like boost pads, things like that. You know, there's a lot that they could do with it using the current framework already, which would make, I believe, rocket racing way more fun, because now it's more of a combat-centered racing experience, which for a game like Fortnite would work well, I believe. Again, I don't this is just like an idea that I had, and I thought I'd just share more into it, you know, share more about it rather. But yeah, let me know your thoughts, and if you enjoy this type of content, I cover like different types of games over time. One of my previous videos was on like the finals, and then I think the one before that was on single player games. So I just cover like a lot of things, just whatever comes to mind that I believe is worth sharing. So if you like it, please do consider subscribing, liking the video, sharing it, and comment. Hear your thoughts. But yeah, that's it for now. Thanks.